The cafeteria erupted in laughter. Not the warm kind of laughter, but the cruel kind that sticks to your bones and makes your stomach twist. "Go on, sing something," a boy shouted from the back, his voice dripping with mockery. Another girl smirked, "Yeah, let's see if the poor girl can do more than sweep floors." The target of their taunts, a shy 14-year-old named Emily, stood frozen at the front of the room. Her hands gripped the microphone, knuckles white, eyes wide. She hadn't volunteered. She hadn't wanted this. The kids had dared her, shoved her forward, chanting until she felt she couldn't say no. And now the entire school was waiting for her to humiliate herself. But what happened next didn't just silence the laughter. It changed lives. The single dad who believed in her. Emily didn't live with her parents. Her mom had left when she was just a baby, and her father, struggling with addiction, was in and out of trouble. The one stable person in her life was her neighbor, Daniel, a single dad raising his own son. Daniel wasn't wealthy. He worked 2 jobs, often coming home tired, hands calloused, but his heart was bigger than his paycheck. His son, Jake, and Emily had grown up side by side, more like siblings than friends. When he noticed Emily's father disappearing for longer stretches, Daniel quietly stepped in. He'd leave meals at her door, help her with homework, and when things got worse, when Emily's father disappeared altogether, Daniel welcomed her into his tiny home without hesitation. He never once made her feel like a burden. "Family isn't about blood," he told her one night when she whispered that she felt out of place. "It's about who shows up. And your family, Emily. Always." A secret talent hidden in shadows. What Daniel didn't know, at least not at first, was that Emily had a secret. She sang. Not in front of people, never. But when the world was quiet, when dishes were stacked in the sink and Jake was asleep, Emily would close her bedroom door and let her voice out. It was raw, beautiful, haunting. Music became her refuge, the one place where she wasn't the poor girl or the abandoned kid. Sometimes, when Daniel passed her room late at night, he thought he heard something, a melody, soft and pure, but he never intruded. He figured everyone deserved their secrets. The joke that went too far. At school, Emily kept her head down. She wore hand-me-down clothes, sat in the back of class, and avoided attention. But bullies have a way of sniffing out the quiet ones. One Friday, during the school's talent showcase, the MC asked for volunteers. A group of students, kids who'd made Emily's life miserable for years, started chanting her name. Emily. 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 At first, she shook her head, panic rising. But then someone shouted, "She probably doesn't even have a talent. Unless being invisible counts." The cafeteria roared with laughter. Flushed and trembling, Emily wanted to run. But something inside her stopped her. Maybe it was the months of cruelty, maybe it was exhaustion from always hiding, but that day, she walked forward. The microphone felt like a stone in her hands. Her throat went dry. She thought of Daniel, of Jake, of the nights she whispered songs into the dark. And then she opened her mouth. The voice that changed everything. The first note floated into the room, uncertain, fragile. A few kids snickered. But then came the next note, steady and strong, and then the next. Her voice soared. Pure. Powerful. A voice no one expected. A voice that didn't just fill the cafeteria, it filled every heart in it. The room fell silent. Jaws dropped. Even the teachers froze, eyes wide, as Emily sang with everything she had hidden for so long, every wound, every dream, every ounce of hope. By the time she finished, the silence was so heavy it rang in her ears. And then applause. Not the polite kind, but a thunderous standing ovation. The same kids who had mocked her were now clapping, some even wiping their eyes. Emily's hands shook as she set the microphone down. For the first time in her life, she wasn't invisible. The struggles behind the applause. But applause doesn't erase hardship. When Emily got home that night, Daniel saw her face glowing with something new, confidence. But he also knew the world wouldn't suddenly turn easy. They still lived paycheck to paycheck. She still carried scars from abandonment and bullying. "Emily," he said, placing a hand on her shoulder, "you have a gift. But more than that, you have a story. Don't let anyone take that from you." The next weeks weren't simple. Some kids continued to whisper behind her back, jealousy biting at her heels. She battled doubt. Was it a fluke? Was she really good, or was everyone just surprised? But Daniel pushed her gently, signing her up for small community events. Each time, her voice grew stronger. Each time, her courage grew. The turning point. Months later, the school announced auditions for a regional competition. Emily hesitated. "I can't," she said, twisting her hands. "I'm not like those kids with lessons in fancy clothes. I don't belong there." Daniel knelt so his eyes met hers. "Emily, talent doesn't ask where you came from. It doesn't care about clothes or money. What matters is what you do with the gift you've been given." Tears welled in her eyes. "But what if I fail?" "Then you fail," he said softly. "And we'll eat ice cream after and laugh about it." "But what if you fly?" Those words carried her to the audition. The girl who refused to break. Emily sang like her life depended on it. Because in a way, it did. Every note carried the weight of her past, every lyric carried the hope of her future. When the judges announced she had made it through, Emily cried into Daniel's chest. She wasn't just the poor girl anymore. She was a singer. She was someone. And with Daniel by her side, cheering louder than anyone else in the room, she began to believe it. The message. Emily's story spread beyond the school, beyond the town. Not because she became famous overnight, but because people saw themselves in her. The bullied kid. The forgotten child. The struggling parent trying to give their kids a chance. Her journey was a reminder that sometimes, all it takes is one voice, one act of courage, and one person who believes in you to change everything.